Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric and Chad here with Iraq Veteran 8888. We've got another public service announcement type video. From time to time, we do these sorts of videos here just to kind of get things out there that we think are important. And it seems like here lately, there's a heck of a lot of these kind of videos that we're having to make because there's so much crap. In fact, as soon as we're done making this one, we're going to be filming another one about Obama's recent tirade of executive orders. That's coming soon. But this particular video is about 41P, which has now become 41F. And in case you guys don't know, it involves firearms trusts. And trusts are one of those things, guys, if you don't know what a trust is, please just pause this video, pull up a tab in Google, go look it up, and read up on it so you understand what this video is about, because if we were to take all the time to discuss exactly what a trust entails, we would be here about 20 minutes before we even get to the point of this whole 41P, 41F thing. So, Chad, what is a trust, and why is this ruling important for people in the NFA world when it comes to trusts?
Well, the whole 41P thing came around because of NFA Trusts. There's been an influx of NFA Trusts that have been created to avoid like chief law enforcement officer sign-off and whatnot. And I assume that if you're watching this video, you are into NFA or thinking about getting an NFA, and you know the difference between a Form 1 and a Form 4, how they're filled out, such as that.
Filing as an individual, yes. Filing as a trust.
But places where, like maybe the chief law enforcement officer who is required to sign off and certify your Form 1 or your Form 4, some places they were very unfriendly to the NFA world, and a lot of people weren't able to procure NFA items based on the actions of their chief law enforcement officer. And that has drawn people to trust, because the trust, as of right now, is a legal entity. So it's not really a person per se. So a trust isn't subject to the same requirements as an individual would be. So with a trust, you could e-form items and literally just upload your trust, upload your Schedule A, fill your form out, pay, sign digitally, and boom, you're done. None of the whole rigmarole with going around, getting fingerprinted, and the whole 9 yards. Now, 41P came around because there was some abuse of gun trusts. There were prohibited persons on a trust or whatever, and they would have access to NFA firearms and just illegal firearms in general in that sense. But anyways.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. And one of the concerns, and I guess I can kind of understand this, I'm going to put this in real simple terms because I'm a simple kind of guy, okay?
You are very simple.
I am. I'm very simple-minded. I'm a simpleton, all right? But the thing is, okay, if I've got a trust, all right, I'm just going to, real simple here, all right? I have a trust. My wife's on my trust. My stepson's on my trust. Chad's on my trust. Say that you have a trust and you've got a few of your buddies on it who might live in different parts of the state that you're in or whatever, and say y'all go out on a regular basis and you go to the range together, you know each other really well, you're good friends, you grew up together, something like that. I mean, obviously, the word trust, hey, you got to trust somebody to have them on your trust, right? I mean, I know that's kind of two different things, but what I'm getting at here is everyone that's on the trust can be in possession of the said firearm. So
here you go. You just want to borrow my SDN6?
I want to borrow your SDN6.
Sure. Go ahead.
So this might be Chad's suppressor. He might have bought it. He filled out the form. It's in his trust name. His trust is associated with this suppressor. But since I'm on his trust, if he wants to leave this at my house, then that's totally okay. Now, technically, if the item's going to stay at the residence, then you're supposed to submit a form notifying the ATF that the item is now at such and such residence. And believe it or not, if you submit even just a memo saying this is what I did, here's all the information pertaining to it, they will eventually send you back a letter going, all right, records haven't been updated, thank you.
It might be months later.
It might be a year later, but they will eventually get to it. The point I'm making, now, what if the people on my trust were unsavory? Let's say that I'm a Joe Blow record producer, and I've got my rapper buddy on my trust who's a felon, and now...
And you bought an M11 to play around with, and now technically a convicted felon could be in possession of...
with those items. So that is where this whole thing has come about, is prohibited persons. What they mean is, if you can't pass a background check to buy a firearm, you cannot be on a trust in terms of legally and ownership wise. So if you got a domestic violence in your history, or any kind of felony, or anything that would prohibit you from passing a background check on a 4473 and buying a gun, then you don't need to be on somebody's trust.
Nope.
Now, getting back to it, where does 41F come into play? Like, what has changed?
All right, so there are some good things, and there are some not so good things.
I hate to say it's actually a compromise.
It is a
Believe
little
it
bit
or
of a
not, it
compromise.
is a real compromise.
All right, so I will go ahead and say this right now, guys. If you were on the fence about setting up a gun trust or whatever the case is, specifically for NFA, still do it. Trusts afford a lot of benefits over just filing individually. One thing being easy estate planning. I'll just leave it at that. But you guys can go and research it yourself.
Please research it, guys. Research it.
But anyways, all right. So on an individual basis, let's start with the individual basis. So previously, all right, an individual would go to the gun store, say they were buying a suppressor. So I want to buy the suppressor. I fill out a Form 4. They print everything off for me. I go to the sheriff's office. I get fingerprinted, 2 fingerprint cards. Okay, I get a photo taken. I affix that to my form. I fill the thing out. I go to the chief law enforcement officer, which typically is the sheriff in your area, or any number of other people. It's listed on the ATF site. They certify my form, and they say basically like, I don't have any reason to think that this person would be in illegal possession of this item, or blah 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 blah.
Pause for a moment. Or they say, screw you, I'm not signing it.
Exactly.
Back.
So that comes into the thing I mentioned earlier about unfriendly Cleos.
Right.
But anyway, so all that's done, you've got all that time driving around, getting fingerprinted, filling the form out, getting the Clio to sign off on it. Finally, you can mail off your 2 copies to the ATF, and then the waiting game begins. All right, so now with 41F, the Clio certification has been removed. It is now only a Clio notification. So the only thing that you are required to do is send a copy of your Form 4 to the sheriff, for example, and send your form to the ATF. That's it. There's that will benefit people who live in these unfriendly areas so much, and people who say, well, man, I can't get an NFA because my sheriff's a real butthead. Okay, well, now all you have to do is say, ha ha, here you go, this is what I did, ha ha. Okay, so anyways, that's an individual thing.
Sure. All right, before we move on, I'm going to say, I always have to play devil's advocate. There's some things that I like about it, and there's things I don't like about it. I mean, so for one thing, I'll keep it quick, but one thing is that, okay, you don't need a Clio sign-off anymore. That's great. Okay, if you're in an unfriendly area, fine. You get to basically send them an envelope with a smiley face on it that goes, whatever. So that's fine. But here's something that I'm a little concerned about, is that now these forms are in the hands of these law enforcement officers who we have to trust them as being custodians to those forms, which means that they are then responsible for your private information, where you live, the item in question. Okay, so what if the ATF were to come to you later on and say, all right, we need proof where you, now I know what you're going to say, but let's just say theoretically, if they said, hey, we need proof of where you sent this out to your chief law enforcement officer in your community, and we need to know because we think you didn't do it or whatever. So my question is, where are the checks and balances for that? They want to control us and tell us what to do, but who controls them? Who makes them accountable? So you mean that some secretary at a dang sheriff's office that you send the paperwork to, she's going to get some envelope, and of course, it's not like they're going to have some meeting telling like what's going on about it. She's going to go, what's this? Trash or shred or the government is infamous for losing paperwork. Okay, they lose paperwork all the time. Who is going to hold them accountable for making sure that your information stays private, that it's kept safe, and that there's an accountability there for the people that are responsible for keeping up with that paperwork? If the ATF calls you and your ass is going to be on fire if you can't produce that paperwork and prove that you were in the right place at the right time and dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's, who's going to be accountable for throwing your paperwork through the shredder? Because one, they might be some anti-gun jurisdiction who goes, screw this, I'm not going to keep up with this crap. What, I have to buy another filing cabinet now? Screw that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Or they go, oh, let's start compiling a database of these people, and we're going to screw with them at every chance we get. So
it could be the case.
I always think a little outside the box there. Now, what Chad's probably going to say, guys, send it registered mail. Send it some type of certified mail.
Somebody has to sign for it.
Get a receipt.
Yep.
So they have to sign for it. If the ATF comes knocking, hey, did you send this? You show them the slip. Hey, so-and-so signed for it. There you go.
Look, I keep all of my important paperwork in a safe deposit box. I mean, all of my original forms with original stamps on it. You know, it's not a big deal. If you lose a form, you just call up the ATF and you tell them what form you need, and they send a certified copy. It might take several weeks, but whatever.
You know, cover your
bases, especially when you're dealing with the government. I mean, I send forms off in the mail. I send them certified mail. I get a receipt. I can look on there and see who signed for it. I know that it was received, so there's no question about it.
All right, so that's individuals.
That's individuals.
What about a trust?
All right, so now a trust. All right, so you're going from very easy.
This is where it gets tricky.
Yeah, you go from being very easy to submit forms to kind of a pain in the ass. All right, so the ATF and with 41P, they want to know who all on your trust is considered a responsible person, and that's another thing that 41F does, is it changes the definition of a person to accommodate trustees or members, responsible parties on a trust or corporation or LLC or whatever you use to procure NFA firearms. But specifically, we're talking about trusts. So you go through the same process. If I want to go and buy this silencer, okay, so I go to my local shop.
Why is it always silencers with you?
Okay, well, if I want to buy this mare's leg.
Thank you.
I go to my local shop and I say, man, that's a cool mare's leg. I want to buy that. Okay, well, here's a Form 4. So, okay, are you registering this as an individual or a trust? As a trust. Okay, well, we need to do things a little bit differently. Right. So, how many people are on your trust? Okay, well, here's your 3 responsible person forms. Okay, this is a brand new form that I haven't really been able to find on the ATF website yet, but basically it's very similar to the way like a 4473 would be, or even the back of a Form 4, whatever.
It's a little basic questionnaire with, you know, your information and the make, model, and serial number of the gun and just crap like that.
Yeah, and it's got a spot to affix a photo on it, the whole 9 yards. Yeah. So you submit the form, if you fill the form out as your trust, okay? So I fill the form out as my trust. It has all the information about the firearm, such as that.
Sure.
The responsible person's forms are filled out by each person in your trust. They each contain the same information that's on the Form 4 regarding the firearm.
Sure.
You affix a photo to each one. You have to do 2 fingerprint cards per responsible person. So, okay, so I got to drag 3 people to the sheriff's office and get fingerprints done, but I was thinking about doing like 10 or 12 at a time.
Right.
You know, but okay, so I'll just, you know, tie up like 2 or 3 hours of the time getting fingerprinted, but whatever. Okay, so you mail your Form 4, you mail your responsible person's forms off, you mail the fingerprint cards off, and you mail your money off. So all that gets sent to the ATF. Well, yeah, with the photo affix and whatnot. So the form, the photo, the fingerprint cards, the responsible person forms, all that gets mailed in an envelope to the ATF, 2 copies of your Form 4, plus $200. And the only thing that gets sent to the chief law enforcement officer in the case of a trust is the responsible person's form. So each form there, so 3 for me, I put those in an envelope, I send those certified mail to the sheriff, I send my forms off to the ATF at the same time, whoop-de-crap.
Pause for a second. So the crux of this, and
the
where
crux of the biscuit.
all of this comes into play here, okay, the reasoning for all of this is so that when the ATF runs the background checks for the Form 1 or Form 4, whatever form in question for the tax stamp that they're applying for, everyone on the trust gets a background check ran instead of just the person that's submitting the information. And I guess in some small form I can sort of understand. I mean, what they want to do is they want to catch a potential prohibited person from obtaining or having access to the item.
The thing is, though, like...
But here's the thing. If it's in your house, it's in your house. I mean, so, okay, you know, under the law, I can't just let a felon walk in my house and come play with my guns, or I can't invite a felon over to come shoot at my shooting range, even if it's my property. A felon is not supposed to be anywhere near a gun. He's not even supposed to be in the same building with a gun, legally. Okay, now...
There's there's always workarounds for that. Like a felon, okay, they'll get a gun from their girlfriend or a family member or something like that, or they'll go through like a straw sale. I mean, they're always...
But we're getting off on the vein of people who don't follow the law. This video is about people who follow the law.
Okay,
like
so all you law-abiding people.
Law-abiding people.
All right, so all those forms get sent off, and you send your forms off to the Clio, and then, you know, you're done. Okay, so your form comes back, and it's approved. Okay, well, I want to do something else. All right. Well,
Here's where it gets interesting.
There's a provision in the ruling here. Let me find it real quick, and I'll read it.
You guys are going to like this. This is actually... I kind of see where they're going at. Believe it or not, I know this is something that's not in the language of the left or of the anti-gun types or whatever, but I have to say this is a little bit of a compromise.
All right, so if the applicant entity has an application approved as a maker or transferee within the preceding 24 months, so within the past 2 years, you've had a Form 1 or Form 4 approved under the trust, under the new rules with all the information submitted, and there has been no change to the documentation previously provided, the entity may provide a certification that the information has not been changed since their prior approval and shall identify the application for which the documentation had been submitted by form number, serial number, and date approved. So, you can get something approved, and if you want to do something else, you don't have to send all the crazy information in, all the fingerprint cards and all that mess. Sure, I mean, I imagine you send your Form 4, you send maybe your responsible parties forms in again. I don't think so. It sounds to me like you just send your Form 4 in.
There's still a bit that's in the air about that.
Yeah, it sounds like you send your Form 4, your Form 1 in, and you send in maybe a letter with the trust name and such on there saying, hey, this previous form was approved, nothing has changed on my trust. Here's a copy of my updated Schedule A to show the new item added to my schedule, and here you go. So it seems to me that you don't have to go through all the rigmarole over and over again. As long as you're submitting
just the first time.
Yeah, as long as you're submitting items within 2 years of one another, it seems like it may be decent.
Somewhat okay.
So
it's kind of like playing Monopoly and getting a get out of jail free card.
Kind of.
But if that's to be taken for face value, and if what Chad is saying is true, that's not quite so bad.
It certainly is a lot less paperwork.
I'm the kind of person that the way that I look at it is the NFA should be abolished altogether. I don't think any of this crap should even affect a normal law-abiding citizen. I mean, if you're an average person who pays his taxes and works hard and pays his fair share and does his fair share in the world and is a good person, you ought not be messed with, all right? I've always believed that. I believe in liberty. I believe in freedom. I believe in personal responsibility. I embrace personal responsibility. Unfortunately, the world we live in is not quite so cut and dry. And, if you're going to kind of suffer the cost of liberty, so to speak, then it really is a gray area, because it's no right for me to tell someone that they have no right to own a firearm or not. That's not for me to say. I wouldn't want someone to tell me, hey, screw you, you can't own a gun because you're just some peon slave. Well, no, we're not slaves. We're all free men, So on one end, I think the NFA is bogus and it should be abolished.
I think it's quite antiquated and whatnot.
It is antiquated. However, on the other vein, though, there is some need for making sure that dummies don't get a hold of things they shouldn't have. But
what surprises me is
crazy.
There's still
slippery slope, guys.
Surprises me. There's still people out there who don't have any idea that the NFA is even in existence. I mean, when we're up at malls, sometimes there's somebody that walks in with an illegal SBR. They're like, "Oh, I didn't know you couldn't do this." Oh, yeah.
What this all comes down to is enforcement. Enforcement. All the laws in the world don't mean anything unless someone cares enough to enforce it. Why would the citizenry even bother to follow laws if, for one, no one enforces it, or two, the law is so senseless that it's just dumb to follow it? If it's like the whole lemmings thing. Now, I know lemmings don't really jump off cliffs. Okay?
No,
that's some bull crap from Disney. I know that. Okay, but I like to use that example. If Obama suddenly said that the sky is falling and that there's a law that says you must walk off the nearest cliff you see, would that mean that we would all just line up like Disney lemmings and walk off the cliff and kill ourselves? Well, no, we wouldn't. Everybody would go, well, I'm not doing that. That's stupid. So
it's common sense.
The way that people follow laws that are prescribed has a lot to do with how pertinent the law is to their everyday lives. Every day we know it's illegal to speed, but do we speed? Many of us, yes. I drive fast.
I like to.
Everywhere I go, I drive fast.
Did we just incriminate ourselves?
But do I drive 150 miles an hour? Well, no. If the speed limit's 60, I might go 80. Is 80 so dangerous that I'm suddenly this horrible danger to society? No. because I'm not on a cell phone like a blumbering idiot. I'm not eating a cheeseburger and putting on nail polish like these dumb women I see rolling down the road. I'm not looking for something on the floor of my truck. Oh yeah, I'll get to it in a minute here. No, I am engaged in the adventure and passion of driving. And I am a responsible person. And no person is going to pull me over in my truck and tell me that I'm a danger to society because I'm driving 20 miles an hour faster than what some sign that's not even alive says is safe for me to do.
No, you're more of a danger to society with those truck balls you've got hanging from your hitch.
I don't have no such thing. I don't know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
But guys, hopefully you can understand what I'm getting at there. Responsible people hate laws. Because it's one of those things that you don't want to be treated like some kid. You know, when you're in school and one kid gets caught chewing bubble gum, well now the whole class, because little Johnny stuck a piece of gum under the desk, now the whole class is punished. I mean, that's bogus.
Well, let's just say, guys, I mean, hopefully this was a good outline for you. I mean, there's been a lot of speculation about this law and whatnot, and we even speculated ourselves, like thinking, like, God Almighty, what are they going to do? Make everybody on a trust go and fill out a 4473 on the item when it comes in and go through a background check? I mean, how can you fill out 3 4473s on one item? That's not possible. They're going to have to update the form. I mean, we just went like all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, the ruling is a compromise. I mean, it's very good for individuals with the Clio, the change to the Clio notification from a certification and whatnot, or a sign-off. But, sure, having a gun trust is now a little bit more of a pain in the butt. And I imagine that, like I said, e-forms right now. That's another thing, too. This does not go into effect until 180 days. So you're talking like July. So
plenty of time.
That's another thing. People were wondering about like grandfathering in trust and this kind of thing. If you have a form that, from the way that I read it, if you have a form that's postmarked even at the midnight hour, the 11th hour, okay, right before this thing takes effect, then your form is considered in process. So that form will be grandfathered in under the current regulations and rules regarding NFA transfers and such. After that time, then these new rules will be in effect after July, and we'll have to start over kind of from scratch in that case. But like I mentioned, 2 years is a long time span to have original paperwork on file that they can just access, and I imagine that's for record keeping and whatnot, and trying to do the whole paperwork reduction and all that mess. But
of
whatever.
course, a lot of the folks that we've talked to in the industry have foreseen that as a result of this whole 41F, there is probably going to be an influx of forms being put in, and it's going to,
drag things
nature,
along.
it's going to definitely slow down the approval process on the forms for a while. So get ready for a 9 to 12 month wait on forms.
Possibly.
Just
maybe. Who knows? I mean, there are more examiners at the ATF now, and they're processing a lot of forms, every month. And, we've seen, like last year when Eric and I did our SBRs on e-forms, they took a month to come back. Well, we put some back in August, and we just got them back in December, like this Mare's Leg, my G9, Eric's Z5P. They finally came back, and they were like 4 months to the day, and I got word that paper forms, there were so many e-forms being submitted that paper forms were kind of taking less time. So I was like, well, heck, I'll just try the paper form system. So we've got a little wager going on who's going to get their 2 forms back. Are my 2 paper forms going to come back before his 2 e-forms do? Yeah. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, so we'll end this video. I know the videos can kind of get drawn out and long when it comes to this kind of stuff. Well, but it's kind of...
It's a lot of information.
It's a lot of information, and it's important. But I'll leave you guys in saying this. Remember this, that law-abiding citizens are always going to do what they can to ensure that they are on the right side of the law, not because we're scared of Big Brother, but because we care about being productive and lawful members of society.
Exactly. That's the whole term, law-abiding.
Do not take this the wrong way. It's not about being afraid of doing the wrong thing. It's because I want to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
And that's what people have to remember about not only gun owners, but many people who follow laws that they're like, okay, they're going with the flow because it is being a responsible member of society to honor the commitments to those around you.
Yep.
Think about it like that. That's the way I look at it. I respect my local law enforcement. I know a lot of my local law enforcement. I've had them over to my house. We've drank beer together. I know these people. They're people, okay? you have to look at it like these are the people in your community. So it's just one of those things that you have to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And I think that what I want to get at with that statement is that when it comes to these Form 1s and Form 4s and NFA, guys, if you're watching this video, you're a law-abiding citizen because you care about being on the right side of the law. Let's face it. A criminal's not going to watch this video. He's going to go, what's that? No, I'm just going to take a hacksaw and saw my shotgun down and go rob a liquor store or whatever. People that are law-abiding care about this kind of stuff. So by association, by watching this video, you too care about doing the right thing legally. And I think that is the essence of what this video is about, is making sure you're on the right side of the law, not because you're scared of Big Brother kicking in your door, but because it's the right thing to do and you want to honor your community properly.
Not only that, but
and your family and everything.
Well, just getting into the NFA in general. I mean, a lot of people are that I talk to all the time, they're kind of on the fence about jumping in the NFA world.
Yeah.
I was like 4 years ago or 5 years ago, however long it was. I've had this lower receiver for like 4 years, and I had the plan to SBR it and all this mess. And the first suppressor that I wanted to buy was the original Liberty Mystic. I finally got my Mystic X, and I tell you what, I should have started this process a long time ago and gotten into the game. I mean, Eric and I now are kind of playing catch up, and you know, NFA is one of those things. I mean, sure, it's a lot of money tied up in basically toys or tools, however you want to put it, but I love suppressors. I mean, I love short barrel rifles and short barrel shotguns, and I eventually would like to get into some transferable machine guns, mainly as an investment, because honestly, I mean, I don't see the Hughes Amendment, I don't see the 86 ban going anywhere anytime soon. No. But, I mean,
like this little PAP pistol here, you know, I've been talking about SBRing this thing forever.
Oh, yeah.
I finally got around to it.
2 or 3 years, you know, you've had it for a while. But,
this is one of the first, this was like one of the first 3,000. This is one of the first 3,000 PAPs.
Yeah. It's an old PAP.
It's an older one.
It's a good gun.
It's a good one.
It's a good gun.
It's a good one.
But I mean, this stuff is really.
Look at that. That's where I melted out that handguard when we were shooting it.
But I mean, this stuff is fun, guys. And like I said, if you were on the fence about getting into NFA and you were worried about this 41P thing, you were kind of waiting to see what happened. Look, take the dive. Just
do it.
Do the paperwork. It's not that big of a deal. Just do it, get it over with, and forget about it. I mean,
buy once, cry once.
Pretty much. So, you know, $200, I mean, sure, it's a pain in the butt, and, you know, if you procure a lot of items, you got a lot of money out in tax, but, I mean, just forget about it. You know, it's just kind of flush it down the toilet.
Hey, forget about it.
Be done. Hey, forget about it. Hey.
Well, guys, thanks for watching. We know this video kind of drug on a bit, but hopefully you get the point. We have more of these videos on the way. I wish that we could get back to doing some crap I want to do, like getting out of the range and actually doing some shooting and some fun crap, and blowing things up and whatnot.
Well, you know, it was pissing rain for like 2 weeks, and now it's freezing ass cold, like 20 degrees.
We've got a video coming up where we're gonna basically do the same type of thing, but we're gonna talk about all of Obama's executive orders he's talking about. That's one we got to dive into here in a moment. But guys, thank you for watching. Thank you so much for the support. I know a lot of you guys treat some of these videos kind of like a podcast. You might be on your way to work and just blare it over the radio and just kind of listen to us on the way into work.
Look at our ugly mugs.
We got a face for radio, I guess. But anyway, thank you for the support. I do read a lot of the comments. I know I don't always respond to a lot of you, but if you want to get in on the commentary, follow us on Facebook. I tend to reply to quite a few of the postings on Facebook. So if you have a question or a comment or something struck you hard in this video and you want to comment, be sure to go over to Facebook and leave your commentary, post it to our page, and we'll be sure to respond.
Yep.
So thank you guys so much for the support, and we'll catch you next time.
Take it easy, guys.